Welcome back to my channel, Math and Language, and we're going to tackle hypothesis testing, t-test. So, sa previous video ko, na-discuss ko na yung about sa C-value or C-test. Nasa description box siya. Now, I will discuss again the step-by-step kung paano naman itong t-test. Now, kung alam niyo na paano kunin yung C-value or yung sa C-test, you may want to check the timestamp naman para dun sa mga topics kung saan na lang kayo pwede mag-advance. Okay, so now let's start with the introduction. So introduction, ano ba ang hypothesis testing? Hypothesis testing kasi is a decision-making process for evaluating claims about a population. And our next topic is the null and alternative hypothesis. Paalala ko lang yung mga topics, kung gusto niyo mag-advance, nasa description box below yung timestamp. Okay, so let's continue. Ano ba itong null hypothesis pati alternative hypothesis? Ang null hypothesis, it states that there is no difference between a parameter and a specific value. Ang alternative hypothesis naman, it states that there is a specific difference between a parameter and a specific value. I'll give examples, don't worry. So, example number 1, the average age of computer players in Las Piñas is 15 years. So, ang null hypothesis is ito. Yan, yung una is equal to 15 years at yung alternative is not equal to 15 years. How about example number 2? The average lifespan of a defective keyboard is 1.5 years. Okay, gumagana pa rin siya. Right, defective. And so here's the answer. Alternative, okay, null hypothesis natin will be 1.5. So yung average daw ay 1.5 years. At ang alternative is greater than 1.5 years. Okay. Next. Chapter 3, two-tailed, left-tailed, right-tailed. So paano natin malalaman, sir, kung two-tailed, left-tailed, or right-tailed? Kung ang null hypothesis mo, ang parameter niya ay equal sa specific value at ang alternative ay not equal to the specific value, that is a two-tailed test. Okay, so what if we have the parameter is equal to specific value, yung null hypothesis natin ay equal to specific value, at ang alternative mo naman ay less than sa specific value. So that will be a left tail test. Kung equal at less than, that will be left tail. Last one. Paano naman kung ang null hypothesis mo ay equal sa specific value, so lahat naman equal palagi, at ang alternative mo ay greater than sa specific value. So the answer will be right tail test. So ganun lang yun. You should memorize this one, two-tail, left-tail, right-tail, kasi it will be crucial para mamaya sa problem solving. So let's have some example. So what tail example number 1? The average age of computer players in Las Piñas is 15 years. So ang null hypothesis mo dito, you have an average is equal to 15 years. At ang alternative mo daw, ang average ay not equal to 15 years. So is it two-tailed, left-tailed, or right-tailed? If you answer two-tailed, then you're correct. Kasi equal and not equal, that will be two-tailed. Moving on, let's have example number 2. The average lifespan of a defective keyboard is at least 1.5 years. So we have equal and greater than. So pag equal and greater than, that will be right tail test. Okay, last one. What if we have equal and less than? So for example, the mean time when changing a muffler is less than 12 minutes. So we have equal and less than. That will be a left tail test. Okay, always remember this one. Okay, let's move on. How about type 1 or type 2 error? So here is the table. You may refer it na lang. Type 1 error occurs if one rejects the null hypothesis when it is true. Tapos, ang type 2 error naman daw ay occurs if one does not reject the null hypothesis when it is false. Okay, let's move on to chapter 5, level of significance. So level of significance, it is the maximum probability of committing a type 1 error. This probability is symbolized by the Greek letter alpha. Okay, makikita niyo yan, yung parang letter A na siya, Greek letter. Okay. Next, most of the significant levels are 0.10, 0.05, 0.01, and 0.025. Marami pa yan, kaso ito mostly makikita mo. Okay, moving on. How about critical value? So critical value naman, critical value determines the critical level and the non-critical regions. So, critical region naman or rejection region is the range of values of the test value that indicates that there is a significant difference and the null hypothesis should be rejected. Pag yung the non-critical region naman or non-rejection region, ito yung range of values of the test value that indicates that the difference was probably due to chance and the null hypothesis should not be rejected. So, maintindihan na lang natin to as we have progressed through the lesson. Okay, so paano naman pag critical value for two-tailed? If the test is two-tailed, the critical value will be either positive or negative. So, always remember, pag two-tailed, palaging dalawa yung critical region mo. So, makikita nyo siya dun sa screen. Yan, yung dinrawing ko. Dalawa yung critical region pag two-tailed. Let's go on. Paano naman pag left-tailed test? If the test is left-tailed, the critical value will be negative. Okay? At pag left-tailed test, nasa left yung critical region. Moving on, pag right-tailed test naman, ang critical region mo ay nasa kanan sa right-tailed test. At positive siya lagi. Okay, so makikita nyo sa screen, remember, pag left-tailed test, ang critical region mo ay nasa kaliwa. Yun yung nasa green. Yung green, okay? Ngayon, tingnan natin yung key table. Sabi kanina, ang degrees of freedom daw ay 9 at level of significance ay 0.01. So, at ito ay left-tailed test. So, pag left-tailed, alam natin na one-tailed lang siya. So, tapin mo lang siya 0.01 at yung sa degrees of freedom, yung sa pahalang. So, 9. At mag-meet siya sa 2.821. So, ang critical value natin dito ay negative 2.821 kasi left-tailed test. Okay, so let's have another example. Using the t-table, example number 2, find the critical value for alpha is equal to 0.10 with degrees of freedom is equal to 14 for a two-tailed test. So again, pag two-tailed test, yung critical region mo nasa kaliwa at nasa kanan. So makikita mo siya sa screen. So remember, level of significance natin ay 0.10, degrees of freedom ay 14, and a two-tailed test. So, napin natin siya. Two-tailed, tapos 0.1 at 14. We have 1.761. So, ang critical value natin ay plus minus 1.761 kasi two-tailed test to. Isa sa kaliwa, isa sa kanan, isang positive at isang negative. Okay, so let's go to chapter 8, t-test formula. The t-test is a statistical test for the mean of a population and is used when the population is normally or approximately normally distributed. So, dito naman, pag hindi natin alam yung population deviation is unknown or tapos, ang number of samples natin ay less than 30, nagamit tayo ng t-test dito or t-test formula. So, ano ba yung t-test formula? T is equal to the sample mean minus mo ng hypothesized mean. Yun sa numerator. At the denominator naman will be the sample deviation over mo ng sample size. Square root ng sample size. So let's have the first example. In order to increase customer service, muffler repair shop claims its mechanics can replace a muffler in 12 minutes. A time management specialist selected 6 repair jobs and found their mean time to be 11.6 minutes. The standard deviation of the sample. Take note, sample, hindi population. Sample was 2.1 minutes. At the level of significance of 0.025, in yung alpha, is there enough evidence to conclude that the mean time in changing a muffler is less than 12 minutes? So first one, lagay mo na agad yung formula. Next one, i-substitute mo na yung mga values dun sa formula. Okay, so ang sample mean natin, that will be 11.6. At ang hypothesized mean natin, that will be 12. Ngayon, yung sa baba naman, yung sa denominator, sample deviation daw ay 2.1 minutes. So 2.1. At ilan ba ang sample natin? That will be 6. So nalagay ko na siya. And get the calculator, the answer will be negative 0.47. Okay? So pinapractice lang muna natin yung pag-substitute ng values at yung sa formula. Okay, again, if you want to skip this, yung timestamp nasa baba, nasa description box para dun sa problem solving. Moving on, let's have the example number 2. A machine is designed to fill jars with 16 ounces of coffee. The consumer suspects that the machine is not filling the jars completely. A sample of 8 jars has a mean of 15.6 ounces and a standard deviation of 0.3 ounces. Is there enough evidence to support the consumer's claim at alpha is equal to 0.10 and to conclude that the machine is not filling the jars with 16 ounces of coffee? Okay, so naging mo agad yung formula. Next is substitute mo siya. And you have, sa numerator, that will be 15.6 minus mo ng 16. So denominator, that will be 0.3 over the square root of 8. And the answer will be negative 3.771. Okay, so let's have the last chapter, problem solving, yung pinaka-hinihintay natin. So I will discuss first the steps in answering alternative hypothesis. So the first one, state the null and alternative hypothesis. Second, select the level of significance. Third, determine the critical value and the rejection region or regions. Fourth one, state the decision rule. Fifth, yung panglima, kailangan natin i-compute yung test statistic. At yung huli, yung pang-anim, make a decision whether to reject ba or not to reject the null hypothesis. So let's have the first problem. In order to increase customer service, a muffler repair shop claims na yung mga mekaniko daw, kaya niyo daw i-replace yung muffler in 12 minutes. Kaso, na-inspect at nag-select sila ng 6 repair jobs and nalaman nila ang mean time doon ay 11.6 minutes. Ang standard deviation of the sample was 2.1 minutes daw. At alpha is equal to 0.025. Again, that's the level of significance. Tanong, is there enough evidence daw to conclude that the mean time in changing a muffler is less than 12 minutes? Take note, less than. So step 1, state the null and alternative hypothesis. So null hypothesis mo, average daw ay 12 minutes. At ang alternative naman daw ay less than 12 minutes. Okay. So, step 2, select the level of significance. Nakalagay dito ay 0.025. Yung nakalagay, alpha is 0.025. Step 3 is determine the critical value, the rejection region or regions. Okay, dahil ito ay less than, ang critical region natin ay nasa kaliwa. Okay, so dahil alam na natin kung saan yung rejection region, okay, yung critical region, hanapin naman natin yung critical value. So, we have a one tail, kasi left tail siya, at ang sabi dito, ang alpha or level of significance ay 0.025. Okay. Ngayon, paano hanapin yung degree of freedom, yung DF? So, madali lang yan. Yung sample minus mo ng 1. So, we have 6 dun sa problem. Sample natin ay 6. Minus mo ng 1 para mahanap mo yung degree of freedom. So, 5. So, gagamitin natin na critical value dito ay 2.571. At dahil ito ay left-tailed, negative siya. Ngayon, step 4, state the decision rule. We have to reject the null hypothesis if ito daw ay less than sa negative 2.571. Pag nag-fall daw yung value ng t sa negative 2.571, pag ito ay less than, sabihin, i-reject natin yung null hypothesis. Okay. So, syempre, kapag hindi natin siya i-reject. Okay, step 5, we have to compute the test statistic. Okay. So, pag dito naman, kailangan nating apply na yung formula. Okay. So, we have t is equal to 11.6. Again, ano ba ulit yung 11.6? Ang 11.6 mo, ito yung sample mean. Minus natin siya sa hypothesis mean, at ang hypothesis mean natin, that will be 12. Yun. So, denominator naman, we have yung 2.1, that is the sample deviation, over the square root of, ano ba yung sample size natin? That will be 6. So, calculate siya, that will be negative 0.47. At dahil mas mataas ang negative 0.47 sa negative 2.571, or since the critical value falls within the non-critical region, do not reject the null hypothesis, or do not reject HO or H0. Okay, next, let's have problem solving number 2. A machine is designed to fill jars with 16 ounces of coffee. A consumer daw suspects that the machine is not filling the jars completely. A sample of 8 jars has a mean of 15.6 ounces and a standard deviation of 0.3 ounces. Is there enough evidence to support the consumer's claim at alpha is equal to 0.10 and to conclude that the machine is not filling the jars with 16 ounces of coffee? Okay, so step 1, state the null and alternative hypothesis. Okay, so we have here, ang null hypothesis mo, ang mean daw ay 16 ounces. At ang alternative hypothesis ay not equal sa 16 ounces. Step 2, select the level of significance. So given naman siya, that will be 0.10. Okay. Ngayon, step 3, determine the critical value in the rejection region. Okay. So, dahil ito ay two-tailed test, alam natin na may kaliwat kanan tayo na rejection region or critical region. Ngayon, gamitin natin yung T-table. So, again, we have two-tail at 0.1 yung level of significance. At ang degree of freedom mo ay 7. Bakit 7? Remember, ang sample, mamayos natin ng 1 para makuha ang degree of freedom. At dahil dito ay 8 minus 1 ay 7. And you will get an answer of 1.895. Step 4, state the decision rule. Okay, pag dito naman, we have to reject the null hypothesis kapag ang value ng t ay greater than sa 1.895 or ito ay less than sa negative 1.895. So step 5, you have to find the value of t. So t is equal to, sa numerator, that will be 15.6 minus 116. Tapos sa denominator naman, that will be 0.3 over the square root of 8. So the final answer will be negative 3.771. Okay? Ngayon, step 6. Make a decision whether to reject or not to reject the null hypothesis. Dahil negative 3.771 ay less than sa negative 1.895, mas mababa ito kaysa sa negative 1.895, kailangan natin i-reject yung null hypothesis kasi nag-fall siya sa critical region. And that's the end of the lesson about hypothesis testing, t-test. Again, the table is at the description box and as well as the timestamp para mas madali nyo ma-navigate or makita kung saan yung gusto nyong topic mismo about t-test. And if you would like to comment or suggest another math and language video, please comment down below. Again, this is James, your math and language instructor. Please like and subscribe and also click the bell notification para updated kayo sa bagong videos ng math and language. And I'll see you again. Thank you. Goodbye.